this other subject, which I can tell you is a very sensitive subject. The last time the issue came up on this platform, you remember references to a certain Mahoney's book by Omane Boama, which led to some very interesting situation in this place. Today, we're going to look at the issue again of Dr. J.B Danquah's place, rightful place in Ghana's founding. And gentlemen, you are to stick to what is fact. Thank you very much. I'd like to start on this note with Nana Komia. Nana, you had a symposium. I will not say you because it wasn't an MPP symposium, was it?
No.
Okay, even though it was graced by President Kufuor and all the people in the NPP, that's not what it was. Yeah, we are told it was organized under the auspices of the, is it Ochehene?
Yes.
Correct.
It's a Danquah Foundation.
It's a Danquah Foundation. Thank you very much. Some say, really, you are the ones trying to project, you know, Dr. Danquah in a manner that he's not deserving. What do you say to that?
Thank you, Samson. Samson, the event that took place last week, I think it was Thursday, was to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the death of J.B Danquah. You know, J.B Danquah is one of the founding fathers of the UP tradition. So on such an occasion, to commemorate his death, in that commemoration, issues surrounding his death had to be talked about. They were prominent. The way he died, because you are commemorating the 50th anniversary of his death. So how he died, the circumstances, will be topical events in that discussion, in that commemoration. Beyond that, the man's contribution to his country would also be highlighted. The man was a patriot. He was a nationalist. Way back before independence, he was being described as the doyen of Gold Coast politics. He founded a newspaper in the 1930s to promote the rights of Gold Coast people. In 1947, he and some friends of his, Park Grant and so on, founded the political movement called the United Gold Coast Convention, with the major aim of pushing for independence for the Gold Coast. Later that year, they brought in Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and employed him as a full-time general secretary of the party, because they were engaged in other vocations, lawyers, merchants, and so on. They wanted a full-time, somebody to work full-time and paid him a salary. So all this showed an intention to promote the independence of this country. He was a member of the Legislative Council from 1947, I think, to the middle 1950s or so. He had written about the future independent country. He had suggested the name Ghana, for example, in his writings in the 1940s. As a member of the Legislative Council, his pronouncements on a key project like Akosombo were highlighted to show his support for that kind of mega project. His role in establishment of the University of Ghana in the colonial days, but as a member of the Legislative Council, when he advocated strongly that the Gold Coast deserve his own university college. All of these have been highlighted. Beyond the politics, he was a founding member of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. He was the first president of the Ghana Bar Association. He was the first editor of the Ghana Law Reports. His seminal ideas on governance, freedoms, individual liberties, freedom of speech, civil liberties, liberal democracy, all of these seminal ideas that he expressed in those days have become the foundation on which the 1969 Constitution of Ghana was founded. The 1979 Constitution, founded on the same liberal principles of democracy and freedoms and civil liberties. The 1992 Constitution that we still enjoy today. All of these things are founded on the principles of liberal democracy, espoused by Danquah and his compatriots. So all of these things, in considering the man's contribution to nation building, to his country, will be highlighted. It has been not misinterpreted, but maybe misread in some quarters, that in commemorating J.B Danquah's death, the 50th anniversary, and talking about the issues surrounding his death in prison, the issues about his contribution, it has been misread as an attempt to put him up against Kwame Nkrumah. That is not the intention. Nobody has said J.B Danquah did better than Nkrumah or did less. Everybody recognizes the primacy of Dr. Nkrumah in the building of this country. Nobody has said he did less than J.B Danquah or anybody else.
Oh, you have had issues with Founders Day.
Yes, but that is not downplaying Kwame Nkrumah. We're saying that other people were part of the struggle to found Ghana, and they must be recognized. Here's an effort to include, not to exclude, that you include more people. If you go to the United States, for example, the primacy of George Washington, leading them in the War of Independence as a general, he has been honored with the capital city of America being named after him. There's even a whole state called Washington. But America recognizes about 20 founders, all of these people who collaborated with George Washington in the founding of America. And all of them, I think there are about 20 or so, they've been recognized. But it doesn't take away from the work of George Washington. So recognizing that Danquah played a part, other people played a part, Power Grant and so on, it's not to say that so Kwame Nkrumah is diminished. No. Here are a group of people who went and brought Kwame Nkrumah from London to employ him to lead in the prosecution of the fight for independence. So these were people who were collaborating together right from the get-go. They collaborated. And then differences arose over the methods. And Kwame Nkrumah decided to break away. But you recognize that right from the word go, the people who went and brought Kwame Nkrumah, for what purpose? And employed him and paid him money. It was to be part of the struggle for independence. So on the occasion of Danquah's death, and these efforts that he made are being talked about, it should not be misread as an attack on Nkrumah. I mean, if the letters that he wrote, the petitions, when he was in prison, the letters that his wife or wives wrote about his deteriorating health to Kwame Nkrumah and so on, and if those letters were not heeded, and he died in prison, those letters are published, it may seem that, oh, he's saying that Kwame Nkrumah was insensitive and so on. But no, these are facts, that the man was in prison. These were the sort of thing that he was going through. He wrote petitions talking about his condition and so on. Those are facts. And so it's unfortunate that those events will be read as an attack against Kwame Nkrumah. It is an effort to talk about his contribution. It is an effort to achieve inclusion in our common fight for independence as against exclusion. And that really is what happened.
Nana, you hold it on there briefly for me and get your phone off. Now, let me bring you in here, and I see that you have been itching.
Oh, not really.
Right. Now, Nana is saying, look, some people are misreading and trying to pitch the one against the other, but that's not what it is. And the CPP in particular has been very unhappy. Now, let me just read this for you, and then we start on that note. Niyama Akomfrai is the communications director of the CPP, and this is what he writes. He says, J.B Danquah cannot be compared in any way, shape, or form with Kwame Nkrumah. Danquah had been a failure in domestic politics, having lost every election he stood for, including in his hometown. You know, he lost about 3 times, is it? Yeah. Right. As candidate against Nkrumah, he got 227 votes against over 1 million votes for the Osagifo. Kwame Nkrumah is a champion of the liberation of the African continent from colonial rule and universally acknowledged as the greatest African in the past 1,000 years, who has done the most to enhance the status of the black race in global civilization. When you read things like this, don't they, for as long as you know the history of this country and the history of the UGCC, coming to the CPP, coming to the NLMs, and all the tribally oriented parties coming together to form the UP, and the place of Danquah, don't you find that this is an exaggeration that is seeking to take away what is duly Danquah's place in the founding of Ghana?
Samson, I have taken some time to look at the speech as delivered by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo,
right,
a relative of JB Danquah, on the 50th anniversary of his death. And I can say in a nutshell that even though on the face of it, it wasn't a comparison between JB Danquah and President Nkrumah. It was a subtle attempt to place JB Danquah in the center of the politics of the Gold Coast, which eventually led to the independence of Ghana. And indeed, if you read the whole of the speech delivered by Nana Akufo-Addo, you would come, if you don't know the history, the political history of Ghana, you can only come to the conclusion that JB Danquah was everything that is Ghanaian today. From the formation of the UGCC down to our independence, down to all the ideas that were conceived about the development of this country, including the development of Akosombo and the Volta Basin, they were all attributed to JB Danquah. Now,
is that what is in the speech?
I'm saying if you read the
Can you quote those parts?
Nana, just hold on. See, in the statement that Nana Akufo-Addo delivered, which was on the unfinished agenda of Danquah, he started by looking at his role in the quest for self-government, which is evident that we know. He spoke about his role in the rule of law in Ghana, questions of development in freedom, which is the NPP's tradition, his role in free press and other freedoms. Then he traced all down to his leadership, what he felt about corruption and what he would have done if he were alive today, national pride and patriotism, what he had to say about that, and projected him on where he stood on Africa, then spoke about how to enhance governance and economic management. Then he brought that to the point where he said, the man's business is not one that is finished because of the current situation we find ourselves in. Where in that did he try to project Danquah over Nkrumah?
Samson, you have only read the subtitles of the various paragraphs,
right,
in the speech. But if you go into the body of the speech itself, then you can only come to conclusion because of the things that were said. You can only come to one conclusion, that this was a man who must be greater than what has been presented to the world.
Sorry,
Nana, please. Yeah. Nana, hold on. Yes, continue.
So, we probably do not have the time to go through the body of the speech, but
Show us a few.
You want
Show
me to show you a few.
Yeah.
Even the conclusion that was drawn by Nana Akufo-Addo, where he sought to, say that he had forgiven, or on behalf of the Danquah family, he had forgiven Nkrumah, was an attempt to actually lay at the doorsteps of Nkrumah that he was responsible for the death of Danquah, an innocent person, such a great hero of the country, for no other reason than Nkrumah's political ambitions. But I'm saying that you do not have the time to go through all this.
Bits and pieces, it's good. We need it.
For example, if you go to where he says that even the present government, that if Danquah were alive,
yes, he would have been writing letters or emails.
As he wrote to Nkrumah on certain issues, he would have been writing all the time to the president on the economy, on corruption, on all other issues. Yeah. What does that portend to you?
It shows that Danquah is somebody who will fight against corruption, will fight for good governance.
That's why he says unfinished business.
Yes. What does that have to do with playing down Nkrumah?
And I'm saying to you, what are the things that were said to have been done in Nkrumah's days, or being done today, that Danquah spoke against, or wrote to?
But the man saw issues of this day that he disagreed with, and he wrote to the president. What is wrong with it?
Nobody is saying that there was something wrong with
Danquah against Nkrumah. How is that bringing down Nkrumah? How? Give us the quotation from the speech.
I'm not sure he said exactly that he said so. That is his interpretation.
Is that you
but the interpretation must be based on that speech.
That's correct.
Take what
this
speech is.
Yeah, sure.
Take your time and read through and see if you will not come to that.
I was sitting there.
That conclusion.
No,
you would come to the same
conclusion. Nana, you take it easy, because that's what I'm holding him to. So just take it easy.
Because it was an attempt by Nana Akufo-Addo.
No,
I'm not dancing around. I'm only putting it the way I understand it.
Based on what?
Based on the contents of the speech.
Which contents?
The contents of this speech.
Yeah, which one?
You want me to read?
No, the ones, the parts that gives you that conclusion. Tell us, show us.
I should show you.
Yes.
The parts that gave me
that conclusion that you
we have time. We have time, so do bits and pieces. So go ahead.
You are an editor.
Bits and pieces. Nana, please allow him. Right.
Now listen to this. This thinking is very much against what is being exhibited currently in Ghana, which permits a small class to have a near monopoly of the wealth of the country.
It's talking about today.
Yes,
it's not in Nkrumah's days.
It's talking about today, this particular paragraph.
Nana, please.
Or you want me to go back and lift from this page what he said particularly about Nkrumah?
No, you are quoting from the point where he spoke about development in freedom. Please continue. I'm following you. Say this thinking is very much against what is being...
A similar state of affairs in his day made Nkrumah declare in 1950 in the legislature about the colonial government. What
made Danquah declare, not Nkrumah?
I didn't say Nkrumah.
You said
Nana, what you're doing now
no,
is
he said
simply
Nkrumah.
just... No.
He said Nkrumah.
I think you're over-heckling him.
I didn't say Nkrumah.
Just allow him. Just allow him.
If you would allow me to continue my submission.
Yeah, so the point
I think
you were reading...
No, I'm not going to...
Nana, do you want to take my seat?
I'm not going to tailor my presentation on this
So what you're saying now is that you are abandoning your earlier position.
I'm not.
That is what...
No, I'm not.
But you cannot point to portions of the statement that, suggest or project what you said. That he sought to, as it were, play down Nkrumah.
I'm saying that if I had the time to,
I said I gave you some time. So if you wanted to do that, go ahead. Because if you make the point, you should back it so that we will know that that's correct. You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. Your comments and your questions are so welcome. 1422. That's the text line. You can also send them to 1760. Okay. Well, Amato is taking his time to go to certain portions of the statement to bring us to the claims that he makes and the interpretation he makes of Nanado's presentation at the memorial. Right. Whilst he's at it, let me start with Abdul Malik on this briefly. So let's begin to hear your preliminary points about all of this discussion whilst he searches for the relevant portions that he wants to use to make the argument.
Yeah. The 50th anniversary of the death of Dr. J.B Danquah in detention. What's wrong with it if his family and political associates decided to mark that period? Absolutely nothing wrong with it, in principle. And it didn't start today. So I don't have a problem with that whole project in principle. And I noted earlier that what was important was for everybody to show a certain level of sensitivity to what was being done. In so doing, we must be sure that the story that we will tell will be factual and that it will come with a certain sense of proportion, so not as to create unnecessary controversy. So nothing wrong with what they did. I said I was waiting to read the lectures that will be given so as to see whether the narration is factual. There's no doubt about the fact that Dr. Danquah went through an ordeal, difficult, challenging, horrifying, in detention. You just have to be dispassionate when you are examining such historical events. I began to do the research on this matter years ago, more than 20-something years ago, and had interactions with many top CPP ministers and functionaries, including my own father, on some of these matters. I arrived at a decision on how PD was handled and casualties that came out of it many years ago. And I've, on public platforms, spoken on those things. So I have no difficulty at all in conceding that the situation in which Dr. Danquah found himself in prison with the CPP leadership, government under Dr. Nkrumah, key members of which were my father and others, could have handled the situation better. I have no doubt in my mind that it wasn't handled with the appropriate sensitivity and humanism. That's my own view.
The CPP largely justifies the PDA.
No.
Is that your position?
See,
that the state should be able to arrest you, hold you in detention for up to 5 years without trial?
The PDA was necessary at the time it was enacted. In its implementation, a lot of things went wrong. So it undermined its moral authority. The abuse of the PDA did not help our cause. Just have to admit these things. But the PDA, in terms of its legal regime, in terms of its purpose, was not peculiar to the Nkrumah era. You have pushed me to go somewhere I wasn't ready to go immediately.
Do that briefly, because that is a critical point.
Beyond PDA, we had protective custody decree. We had preventive detention under various governments that came. Indeed, under the protective custody decree of the NLC, 3 CPP leaders died in prison. 3 died in prison. But that was the point. Go to Northern Ireland, diary. The British had some similar system. Today in America, they have a similar legislation to deal with terror or terrorism. Within the context, and indeed...
you suggest that Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo Bay, those things, they are justification for what
you cannot... No.
And your reference to the UK, you'll find that it came under such a
Yes, because it wasn't properly handled. Let me read to you. Let me read to you a memorandum on protective custody that the Safwaje Commission, that is the Commission of Inquiry that the NLC set up in 1967 to go into the conditions of prisons. The highlights were the Bishop Lamte and Dr. Danquah's experiences. And if you go through that proceedings, you see that yes, the point I'm making that we didn't handle those. When I say we, is because I see myself as part and parcel of the CPP family.
Right.
Listen to this. It says, in view of recent history, it will be generally accepted that an effective way of dealing with individuals whose actions or general freedom of action are reasonably suspected as being likely to endanger the safety of the state or public order and welfare is to detain them without trial for a specific period. This is an extreme measure, and while its effectiveness would usually recommend it to the government, such a power without proper safeguards is likely to be abused and to lead to serious political dissatisfaction with the government, as indeed the history of the preventive detention shows. It should be stressed that persons so detained are in a special category, distinct from that of any persons in prison, since no offense is proved against them, no charge is formulated, and the whole policy is based on suspicion or reasonable probability. For these reasons, it is believed that if protective custody is to be gradually accepted as a feature of Ghanaian legal system, it should be governed by principles outlined below, which are formulated to ensure, 1, that the use of this power is not arbitrary, whimsical, or punitive, and 2, that those in custody must be humanly treated and cared for, preferably in a custody camp or place distinct from prison. This is a memorandum the NLC had required from Professor Ufusuama to assist the work they were doing.
Okay.
The principle I'm making is that there are times in nation's history where a certain legislation could be put in place to cure that kind of mischief that was envisaged in terms of the dynamics of our post-colonial situation. And there were instances, and you've dragged me a bit away, but there were bomb throws, there were security threats, there were coup attempts, there were plotted assassinations, and all the rest. These things are all true. That's the environment within which this particular legislation was brought. My view is that it wasn't properly handled. So there were casualties, and unfortunate casualties. And that, if you are looking back with the benefit of hindsight, you don't go out eulogizing PDA or rationalizing it. You have to accept the fact that it was not properly handled.
And very briefly also, speak to this point. Do you, from the facts that you know them so far, that JB Danquah ought to have been arrested and put under, preventive custody?
The security services of the period and the political leadership of the period believed so. But beyond that, you had to charge him, you had to try him, and you had to convict him if indeed the evidence was overwhelming.
They didn't believe so in 58 when they were picking up Bafwa Koto and Co. and so on. Why is it that she was not arrested together with them?
No, but if you don't have evidence that this particular individual is part of the group you are seeking, 58, they arrested 43 people, UP members, mainly Greater Accra regional executives. And then when the Hawaii case happened, they arrested Ara Ponsang, Modesta Palu, and the soldier man himself. They didn't try them, but they set up a commission of inquiry, a 3-man commission of inquiry, headed by Gravin Sharp, and then M.A. Charles, who was a justice in Kumasi, a magistrate in Kumasi, and then Nana Tibudakum, who was then the chairman of the TDC. And this commission, I have the report here. The final report was 2-1. The 2-1, there was also a unanimous aspect that indicated that indeed the 3 gentlemen were involved in an act of revolutionary nature to undermine the security of the state and to overthrow the government. The minority said no, that was the Gravin Sharp.
Right.
But the 2 majority said yes, except that at the time they were arrested, they had given up their plot. I have the report here, okay? But you see, my point is that if it's the PD that is the focus, I don't see why we should have a difficulty, and when I say we, I mean the CPP people, to concede that while the legislation may have been appropriate within the context of the security environment, its operationalization led to untold challenges and hardships. With the benefit of hindsight, why am I worried? Why should I be scared? Or why should I not have the courage of conviction to admit these things? It's no big deal. Look, I sit here as a victim of PDA of a sort. Preventive detention under the PNDC. I was not charged, I was not tried. For the first run, I stayed there for 2 years. The second one was 6 months. Having gone through that personal ordeal and having gone through the experiences in prison, it helped me to do a deeper interrogation of this kind of experience in our lives and know that you just have to place the truth where it should be. But you see, that's beyond that. As I said, in doing this, in celebrating, marking the 50th anniversary, it had to be done with a sense of proportion, and the narration must be factual. I've had comments, the opportunity to comment. At that time, I hadn't read Nana Akufo-Addo's thing. Indeed, I didn't listen to any of the lectures because I was preoccupied, and I hadn't read anything. But Thursday on Metro, I did my first commentary. Subsequently, I got the text. 2 areas. Let's deal with them, if you will permit me.
Go ahead.
The conclusion. It says, even though Danquah never exercised executive authority in the state, his influence on Ghanaian history has been truly astonishing and can be felt in virtually all areas of our national life: constitutional, cultural, economic, intellectual, political, and religious. Several key institutions of our country owe their origin directly to his work. The Cocoa Marketing Board, the University of Ghana, Legon, the Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Kumasi, the Bank of Ghana, and Ghana Commercial Bank, and Accra Sports Stadium, amongst others. This is an exaggeration of a sort. And this kind of exaggeration could lead us into the realm of fallacies. Step by step, let's go to it.
The realm of fallacies. That's another article on this subject.
Cocoa Marketing Board, you can grant some point there. That's why I use the word exaggeration. When the farmers went on a certain agitation that they would withhold their cocoa because the prices were low, there was widespread protest around. They went on a strike for about 8 months in the 40s. Danquah was an advocate of the farmers. That's a fact, documented.
There's another view, though.
No, it's a fact.
Yeah, there's another view of what he sought to hijack.
Oh,
that's, their frustration. For what purpose?
Oh, but the routes, the ex-servicemen, when they did the 1948 thing, the UGCC leadership, they were not those who instigated the ex-servicemen's thing, but they decided to take advantage of it.
Proceed, because I want you to quickly, round up on that.
So he had a role in terms of advocacy. But in view of what the farmers had done, the cocoa farmers and all the rest, the colonial government set up the Nowell Commission to look into all those problems. And it was the Nowell Commission that eventually recommended the setting up of a cocoa marketing board. In fact, it began as the West Africa Produce Company, then subsequently became the Cocoa Marketing Board. You can grant that there was a role Dr. Danquah played there, but not that he was the key instrument in setting up the CMB. So there was an exaggeration.
Right.
Now, University of Ghana, that too, there was a role. That is University College of the Gold Coast, which became University College of Ghana before University of Ghana. University of Ghana, when you do this analysis, it's an evolutionary thing. With the University College of Ghana, there's enough literature to show some advocacy, especially when they wanted Ghana to have its own independent tertiary institution rather than going to Sierra Leone, Foray Bay. Okay? So, again, you can point to a role and you grant that, but you don't exaggerate it. Now, when you talk of University of Ghana in the true sense of the word, it became an independent University of Ghana with the appropriate statutes, full-fledged university in 1961. You tell the story properly. Okay, so University of Ghana as properly stated today, it was by an act of parliament in 1961. And it wasn't just mere legislation. It meant it changed the curriculum, it changed so many things. So there too, an exaggeration. Kumasi University of College of Technology, Kumasi, became Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, 1961. So again, exaggeration. It's not a factual narration. Now, Bank of Ghana, that was a place that I was shocked. Bank of Ghana was founded 4th March 1957, 2 days before independence. I've done my research and I realized that again, there's a question of advocacy on behalf of, by Dr. Danquah. You see, when you go to, Dr. Danquah wrote something, I have it here, excuse me. He had the Watson Commission, Aiken Watson, the chairman of the commission, asked him to provide a draft constitution. He did it in his individual capacity. And when you go to that article, which was 15th April 1948, there Dr. Danquah, in that constitution, the draft constitution, I'll quote that paragraph 22.
Okay.
This is what he said. He said, the Gold Coast membership of the West African Currency Board must be retained, but the National Bank must be established to facilitate industrial development under the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Commerce and Industry. This is dated 15th April 1948. There was a letter he wrote also to one Mr. Daxon, J.K. Daxon, which is dated 15th September 1949. And there too he refers to Central Bank. And let me read that last paragraph. It says, with regard to my proposal for a national bank, I hope it will soon be possible for the matter to be raised again on public platform. So here, if you are talking of ideas, you are talking of advocacy, you can grant him something there. But Bank of Ghana itself, as I indicated, was actually founded 4th March 1957. I have here the Hansard, when Bedema, Afro Bede, that is Dr. K. Budema, Mr. K. Budema, actually submitted the bill on Bank of Ghana, the need for Bank of Ghana to be...
Okay.
No, please, let me finish. Just the last one. You see, this is important. We tell our history. It's the same way. There are distortions about Danquah too that needs to be, we should cure. Distortions about Nkrumah that we need to cure. If we want...
I have a good appreciation of your deep understanding of these issues, and that is why I've allowed you...
Yeah, let me finish this one. Let me finish this one. It's important on the Bank of Ghana. On 5th February 1957, this is Hansard that I'm reading, the Bank of Ghana bill, which was presented by Mr. Bedema. After giving a long list of what the Bank of Ghana was going to do and why we needed it and the rest, the main opposition person who spoke to it first was Mr. Kobna Kessi, Kumasi North, Muslim Association Party. He said, and can you listen to this? He says, as the bill stands now, it appears that a central bank, for the present at least, is not a necessity, except for the fact that with the political independence, the fashion now is to have a financial independence. But then economic autonomy may be desirable. It is not necessarily attainable. He went on to say that there was no need. Listen to this. He says, but in any event, as the Honorable, that is Mr. Victor Usu now talking. But in any event, as the Honorable Member for Kumasi North said, the establishment of a central bank is only a luxury. It is not dictated by any sound principles of finance. The only justification that can be advanced for the establishment of a central bank is probably considerations of national pride. I personally do not see any justification, especially at this time, for the establishment of a central bank. This was repeated also by M.A. Apalu. So when you are talking of Bank of Ghana and how it was time that was created within the context of our history, I don't see the basis on which you would attribute anything of it to Dr. Danquah just because he advocated the need for a central bank or a national bank in 1948.
Okay, thank you very much.
That is what I mean by non-factual presentation.
Okay, and the exaggerations that are
and the exaggeration.
Can you tell me in 30 minutes what your view will be 30 seconds what your view will be on the his alleged role in the Volta is it Akosombo Dam or the Volta Basin?
No, that's as fallacious as the one I've just proven. And that's, I'm sorry I even forgot, even I listed it here.
Okay.
The point was that they attributed, he made some comments in the Legislative Council, okay, about Akosombo. And so then you seek to credit him with the construction of Akosombo. We might as well credit the colonial government rather. I have here 1960, the Standing Committee on the VRA project with Nkrumah as chairman. When they sat, the minutes, attached to it was the geological survey and the historical notes on Akosombo. And you will see that the first idea about Akosombo was as far back as 1915. In fact, the site was located then, identified then.
All right,
so we might as well credit the colonial regime with the construction of Akosombo.
Thank you very much. It's like a cross-examination. You don't ask the question if you don't know the answer. So I asked the question because I knew the answer that the first conception was 1915.
And between 35 and 39 and 45, during the Second World War, over 10 research activities were conducted, all available. So yes, in terms of who spoke about it or who generated the idea, that's even long before UGCC was formed.
So now, Ameto, let me have you, proceed on your delivery.
I will
abandon the first.
I will Samson, not belabor any further points after the Honorable Kwekubakun.
Hey, I'm not honorable.
Actually made
why not?
A comprehensive dilation of the issue.
Okay.
I will just simply
abandon that and then go on a different level.
On the tangent that I started by saying that it was a presentation that sought to glorify Danquah beyond all reasonable points. A similar attempt was made.
Please, are we talking about Akufa?
Nana, please.
Exactly.
Nana, please.
A similar attempt.
He's rephrased it. He said to glorify him beyond reasonable points. So that's where he's beginning.
A similar attempt was made during our 50th year celebrations. And I would like to quote what Dr. Botwe Asamoah said then in an article that he wrote. It is contained in a compilation by the Socialist Forum of Ghana called Fight Back, a response to anti-Nkrumah provocations. He said, "It is one thing adoring one's king and or mentor, regardless of his or her nefarious deeds and treasonable acts. It is another thing trying to impose such an individual on a nation as a hero." And that is exactly what the Nana Akufo-Addo's presentation on the 50th day of the death of Danquah sought to do. I have said time and again on this program that if you go back and look at the speech in its comprehensive nature as Mr. Kwekubakun has done, there are a lot of things that you can come up and dispute what has been said about Danquah. Finally, I want to say that Danquah was not the patriot as he was supposed to have been. And if there are enough literature around which specifically attest to his collaboration with the CIA and roles other members of the UP tradition played in the eventual overthrow of Nkrumah in 1966.
Okay, thank you very much. No, I know we addressed that point since the issue of the CIA has come in. Just hold on. Some judge will have a stake on that, and then I'll take a quick rebuttal, so to speak, and then we'll move on. Now, let's go take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with all of these points. Now, some of your text messages, Frank Anderson Jr. is saying with other people that this is the point where they call on Abdel Malik Kwekubako Jr. to write a book. We'll be right back. This program. If I got your name wrong, please forgive me. Bonvai Salome says, JB Danquah, the doyen on paper but not in reality. Part 1. Until the arrival of December 1947 of Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana to revive the struggle for independence, the pre-independence nationalist movements were treading water. Okay, they were treading water. The group was largely made of professionals, the intelligentsia of the aboriginals, intelligentsia and business merchants. Their activism was instigated by men such as Kobina Sechi of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society and George Albert Grant, founder and funder of the United Gold Coast Convention. As the evidence would show, even though Dr. J.B. Danquah was active in lending his time and energy to the struggle, his role within that context was at best secondary. Salome in London sent in this one. Very controversial text messages that come in. I'll read one more, which says, J.B. Danquah, and this is coming from Wando Theophilos. He says, J.B. Danquah certainly has a place in the founding of Ghana. If he had not taken the decision to invite Nkrumah, is there any historical record of evidential value, you're speaking like Kokubaku here, evidential value that is documented and suggests that Nkrumah had the intention to return to Ghana to fight for independence of Ghana? Those doubting his role in founding Ghana should rethink. Now,
but obviously, Nkrumah's activities abroad as part of the Pan-African Union, Manchester Congress, and all those things were tailored towards Africa.
Yeah, they were tailored towards Africa. But the question is asking is, was it a fact that he intended to come back home and fight for independence?
Read his books and read the books on him. He really intended coming back home eventually.
Okay, eventually, but was it not fast-tracked? Fast-tracked by the process of the UDCC.
Why should I?
Okay, St. George, let me hear you and briefly speak to the points. Okay, at your own choosing of the discussion.
Yeah.
Yes. Factual.
Yes, we're trying to be factual. I'm going to pick up from where the point Amato was trying to make, that the lecture that was delivered on Thursday was an act of building a grandiose picture of someone who was not as grandiose in his actions as were being suggested. Kweku tried to pick some of the issues and address them and show the exaggerations and outright fallacies with some of them. Akosombo Dam, for example. And if Nana Akomea wants the portion of the statement, I will read.
No, we have addressed that point, so we should move on.
We should move on.
Right.
So he admits that Nanado did make certain grandiose
I'm sure they have no option to admit that the conception started in 1915, and so cannot be attributed to JB.
Fantastic. You want to go through any history book, and you ask yourself, if all the history books we've read, where the authors were drunk on Hausa Koko, or what it was that had influenced the writing of those history books. Because clearly, if you listen to the lecture that was given on Thursday, and you read the history books we all read, when the mention is being made of the likes of Agostino Neto and Nelson Mandela and Jomo Kenyatta and Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba, there is absolutely no mention of JB Danquah. And if you want to paint the picture of someone who should be seen as the arch-patriot, who conceived even the name Ghana, how interesting.
That's the truth, isn't it?
How interesting.
That's the truth. That's a fact,
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had started the first school.
No, please, let's stick to the fact. As far as the name is concerned, you can take that one away from him, please.
No,
let's stick to that fact.
I dispute that.
You dispute?
And yes, I dispute
you must
that.
dispute with facts, superior facts.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's first school that he founded, what was the name of the school? And in what year was it founded? Does that not precede our independence? And the choosing of Ghana as our independence name, or as our new name? So I mean that in itself is fact.
What school was founded?
Oh, Ghana National.
What year?
1938.
1938. Nkrumah was not here in 1938.
Ghana National was founded it preceded the independence of Ghana.
Sure.
Yes, and so that in itself defeats that argument. You understand me?
Danquah was talking about it in 1947.
I mean,
these discussions they become.
Nana, when you were speaking, we all tried to keep quiet for you to speak.
Let's acknowledge that. Let's acknowledge that panelists are not supposed to interfere and to heckle. But when you are speaking of a fact that has their questions, they should be able to come in and.
Was Ghana National not founded before the independence of this country? It was. And that is the basis on which I've made my case.
When was it founded?
You understand me? When you take the picture that everybody sees and knows from polo grounds of the Independence Day declaration of this country, where was Dr. J.B Danquah? When the likes of Komlak Bedema and Kojo Botu and Kisley Hayford and Mr. Welbeck and Kroboidu said were standing there with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, where was Dr. J.B Danquah? This whole assertion that without Dr. J.B Danquah, we will not have the country we have today. And basically everything good. In fact, some have gone as far as saying that the next thing we will hear is that the blue shirts Avram Grant has repeatedly worn for our marches were suggested to him by Dr. J.B Danquah. Because that is where they are pushing us.
Please, let's not get there.
That is where we are being pushed to.
Yeah.
You see, that for me, if someone who could walk out of prisons, yeah, and one of his first actions was to walk to a foreign embassy and demand why payments that were being made to him by the CIA had stopped coming while he was in prison.
By the CIA, that's on record.
Obviously, payments. If you read Mahoney's book, the declassified documents of the CIA.
Mahoney doesn't say the payments were made by CIA. Please point me to that part. He doesn't say so.
They were made by who?
Of course. He went to the embassy. The embassy is not the CIA.
But he went obviously because obviously. You see, even when you take assets
on this one, just
local assets within the country today, and you talk to our security guys, they will tell you that you will not find a direct money trail. But was the CIA not involved with Dr. Danquah? Is that something anybody will want to dispute? And what was the relationship between them? And if you have a relationship with Dr. Danquah, if the CIA had a relationship with Dr. Danquah, and then Dr. Danquah comes out of prison and walks straight to the U.S. Embassy to demand why his payments had stopped coming, where were those payments coming from? What debt did the U.S. government owe him?
Just a quick comment.
Okay, is this the suggestion? Hold on. Is it your contention?
Yes.
That for as long as an individual is cited as having had something by the CIA, then that person has had, to work with the CIA. Is that your point?
My point I'm making here is declassified documents of the CIA points to the fact that Dr. Danquah was an agent of the CIA.
And these declassified documents also are the documents that refer to Mandela as someone who was who?
A terrorist. And there was action. There was basis for that action. Okay, because we all agree that at that time the ANC had a militant youth wing that had engaged in bombing.
Okay.
I will read one. No, I'll read one last document. Let me read one last document. Okay. This is curled from Journey to Independence and After, Volume 2. Okay. It's a letter written by Mr. Danquah on the 10th of October, 1956. Dear Mr. Obdam, I exceedingly regret delay in replying to your two letters. The man, Kwame Nkrumah, and it's titled Nkrumah and His Tricks. The reference number is 880/P and F/51. I exceedingly regret delay in replying to your two letters. The man, Kwame Nkrumah, who is now leader of government business, has started his tricks again. This time, he, who is the government, is inviting all the political leaders and chiefs to join him to send an ultimatum to His Majesty's government of the UK for self-government now, and if rejected, to decide positive action, strikes and boycotts, etc. There has been hectic activity all over the place. And on Sunday, we of the UGCC met at a great meeting and turned down the challenge flat as being an invitation to criminal connivance against law and order.
Okay.
I have had to be away in Kumasi for long periods last month, and I am just now clearing a pile of work.
Okay.
JB Danquah, how can you refer to this person who speaks about Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's fight for the independence of this country as the arch patriot of this country, then what do we define patriotism as?
What's really the point here? Okay, hold on. Hold on.
He refers to
hold on now.
The man went and bought
Hold on now. And this is something I can confirm. And Gabi says that I have combed through all declassified CIA files on Ghana from 1952 to 1966. Nowhere is Danquah even hinted as a source of information. The fact that the U.S. ambassador says in his book that when Danquah was in jail, the CIA head gave his wife stipends does not make him a spy. If so, then every freedom fighter supported or sympathized by a foreign power is that foreign power's spy. If so, then Mandela, okay, I was mentioning Mandela earlier. Mandela was a KGB spy. Danquah made no secret of his preference for the free market and liberal democracy model. Thank you, very much.
On this point of this CIA,
right.
It's very interesting. Look, Samson, Kwame Nkrumah was a political prisoner. Even up to today, when you are a political prisoner, your family would receive support from all kinds of agencies, Amnesty International, whatever.
So what was the CIA's interest in that?
Can I finish?
Hold on.
So Kwame Nkrumah was a political prisoner. Some support was extended to his family. When he came out of prison, that support was stopped. Now, if he is an agent of the CIA, like we are being made to believe, why would the support be stopped when he came out of prison?
That's an interesting question. Hold on. Gentlemen, hold on. Kweku, we have 30 seconds. Sorry.
The name
30
Ghana
seconds.
and all those
right.
things, and the timing as he was making. Ghana National, I think, was somewhere July 1948.
48.
Yes, after some students went on disturbances.
Nana Kumia says he started speaking of the Ghana in 1949. So
wait, no, wait. Let me just give you.
Okay.
Danquah is the draft basic constitution for Ghana land. That's how he titled it for the Watson Commission.
Okay.
The one he did in his individual capacity.
Okay.
Let me just read this paragraph 3.
Okay.
It says,
I'm hoping that we can get just some.
Yeah, just a quick one.
5 or so minutes addition to finish this point.
Paragraph 3.
It's very untidy to
it says,
end it here.
I conceive that the first act of the constitution-making body will be to make a clean break away from the memories of the days of exploitation and imperialism, and the colonial adjective, Gold Coast, will give way to the substantive name of the people and country, Ghana and Ghanaland. The colony will become South Ghana, Ashanti will remain Ashanti, and the northern territories which were made part of the Gold Coast by the enterprise of George Ekem Ferguson of Anamabo, that's where I come from, will become either Fergusonian or North Ghana. So 15th April 1948, Danquah in his draft constitution to the Watson Commission was talking of Ghana and Ghanaland.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, doesn't mean enough.
Yes. You know this issue. You need.
But I want to ask a question. What was the importance of the National Reconciliation Commission that was set up by the National Reconciliation Commission by the MPP government?
Hold on.
We didn't get a chance. I wanted to deal with that.
Gentlemen, allow me to moderate the show. Sorry. Please, sorry. Now, I spoke about 5 minutes, and I suspect that we have the 5 minutes, so we have 4 minutes more to go. Kweku, the question of the forgiveness, people have taken that one very strongly. Professor Jimana Bedu-Akosa, who should have been speaking to us, and unfortunately we have not been able to get to him to speak on this matter, feels very terrible about that kind of attitude.
Yes, I think it was well intended, but it was needless, and it appears to have offended the sensibilities of the Nkrumah family as well as some CPP elements. I think the National Reconciliation Project settled that issue. Even before then, CPP UP elements have been working together, PMFG, of which Nanado himself was General Secretary, AFC, when the UNC collaborator of PNP in the Third Republic, Willie becoming Chairman of Council of State. So many things have happened, that actually took away the intensity of the antagonism of our fathers. And NRC was supposed to settle it. And the president of the nation, the head of state, was supposed to issue an apology on behalf of everybody, all those who were hurt.
Okay.
So I think Nana Addo might have thought he was doing the right thing, but you see, well, I won't call it a goof, it's backfired. A well-intended action has backfired. I think if I had known earlier, I would have advised against it.
Okay.
Because look, we've settled those issues. And so people are asking, how about what happened to those victims of bomb throws and all that? It's needless. He meant well, but it really has backfired.
Thank you, Kweku.
Kweku is talking about forgiveness at the NRC. So can there be...
And no Danquah family man went to NRC.
Went there. Okay. So can
so it means they had given up already.
Yes, but can there be an abundance of forgiveness?
Okay.
Can there be? I mean, I don't see.
Nana,
you will not run away from the fact that all of these debates over the period has been attended by rancor, and who did that and who did not do that. Nana Addo is saying, look at the collaboration between the two parties since 1997. So Nana Addo is saying, let's move away. Let's move on our part. We want to move away.
But you don't present Nkrumah as some demon who has to be...
Saying that we forgive Nkrumah, it means he's a demon. Danquah himself, I'm sure he may have done things to people that they would... but you see, we don't have time. Look, this business about where was Medema, where was Sam George? Why are you looking? This business of Sam George, where was Nkrumah in the Polo Ground? Where was this? Where was this?
Oh, that one.
This is not a narration about or against Medema. If Bedema had a role, why give him that role?
The point
if Danquah, if Danquah had a role,
his apology statement. He's created more rancor.
You and Goof,
please. You and rancor with that statement he's made. Because forgiveness,
you and Goof should not be in the same line.
Forgiveness must
gentlemen. This is where we draw the curtains. This is where we draw the curtains. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Can you please regulate yourself? Can you regulate yourself? Can you regulate yourself, gentlemen? Sorry, Sam George, I'm not sure you want to be doing this on the platform. Sorry. Okay, this show... Thank you very much. My guests have been Nana Akomia, who is the communications director of the NPP. Ameto Kwame is a communications consultant for the NIA, and Sam George is a presidential staffer. And
is a government communicator.
Yes, and he's a communicator as well. And then Abdul Malik Kwekubako Jr., needs no introduction. He is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. I'm Samson Ladia Yeneni, your host. If you are looking for Latido shirts, just call 020-433-6444. Have a good afternoon.